In today's show, the Blazers lose a couple lottery tiebreakers. Plus, we review Shaedon Sharpe's sophomore season with the Trail Blazers and look ahead to a major year 3 for the Blazers youngster. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So tell your friends about it. Make it a part of your daily routine. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, Blazers caught a couple L's. They've been catching L's all season. They lost 61 freaking games. And then on Monday afternoon, Monday morning, they caught a couple more losses. Blazers lost 2 lottery tiebreakers that has implications for where they can potentially end up in the lottery. We'll talk about that. And then we'll do our season review for Shaedon Sharpe in today's show as well. Year 2 didn't go at all as planned for Sharpe. We will revisit that and then look ahead to year 3. He's got a really big one ahead for him. Plus, we'll revisit Michael from the past, my preseason predictions on Sharpe, and see how close I was to getting it right or where he landed in my preseason predictions. Let's get into all Shaedon Sharpe stuff in a little bit. Let's start here though with the news. Blazers got a couple L's on Monday. You're listening to Tuesday, April 23rd show. I appreciate you listening. And on Monday, the NBA settled ties for the lottery. Basically, how it works in the lottery is that the tiebreakers, if you finish with the same odds, you combine the odds, and then if it's not an even split, you do a coin flip there's a coin flip for the final to split the remaining odds, who goes where and who gets the last combination that is. And the Blazers lost twice, so functionally they are now 4th, and the Hornets are 3rd. They lost that one. They're also owed a pick by the Golden State Warriors, and the Warriors finished tied with the Kings. They lost that one too. The Warriors finished 13th, the Kings finished 13th, and the Warriors dropped to 14. So the Blazers are slated now with 4 and 14 in the sort of lottery odds. But let's get into the implications, because it's a little more complicated than that, or just a little more nuanced than that. The Blazers, by virtue of falling to 4, have a 13.2% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick, while the Hornets remain at 13.3. The Blazers still have a 50% chance of finishing in the top 4 in the lottery, while the Hornets, by virtue of winning the coin flip, have a 50.3% chance. Golden State drops to 14, below Sacramento for the last lottery spot. They have a 3.4% chance of finishing in the top 4 and a 0.7% chance of finishing with a top overall pick. The only spots that Golden State can finish are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 14. There's nowhere else they can finish. The lottery is only for those top 4 picks. So if the Golden State, they're going to do the lottery, right? If Golden State isn't the first card that flips over, bang, the Blazers don't have their pick. It rolls to 2025. And the Blazers will have a 2025 top 1 protected pick from Golden State. But if they do flip over that first card when they reveal the lottery here in a couple weeks, it'll be Golden State it'll be decided pretty quickly. It'll be Golden State at 14. The lottery's on freaking Mother's Day, y'all. Come on, NBA, come on. So it's like I think it's 5 p.m. local time on Mother's Day. Come on. It might be 2 p.m. local time, but regardless, Mother's Day, really? The Blazers are, they have a 50% chance of top 4. They can drop all the way to as low as 8. As low as 8, the Hornets, by virtue, can only drop to 7 by virtue of winning the tie. And what it means that if 2 teams do jump up into the lottery and the Blazers and Hornets get bumped back, the Hornets will always, because you only do the top 4 picks for the lottery, and then it's by order of where you finish. So the Blazers would always be behind Charlotte. They'll always be the next team behind Charlotte if both of them get bumped back. Same with Golden State. There's no way they can move from 14. They're stuck there forever. They're either going to have a top 4 pick that they get to select, or they're going to give one to the Blazers. Okay, that's how that works. We'll revisit that on Monday, May 13th show, because that's when the lottery will be determined. Let's get into Shaedon Sharpe, because this is the core of today's program, is looking back at Shaedon Sharpe's season. You know, the frustrating part is 32. That's the big number for Sharpe, is that he played 32 games. He missed 50 of them. We just didn't see enough of it. And I think that makes all of the analysis, all of the hope, all of the stuff I'm about to say, the next 20 minutes of this show, like it couches it in, we just don't know enough. We saw some moments, but we don't know enough. On the year, Sharpe finished averaging 15.9 points, 5 boards, 2.9 assists, shot 40.6% from the floor, 33% from three, and 82.4% from the free throw line. Career highs across the board in his counting numbers. Points, rebounds, assists, career highs in his 32 games, because he was... You know, he had a very large role for a portion of the season, and had a generally large role, and a large role for all of the time he was involved, because Anthony Simons got hurt on night one. It kind of changed the whole plan. Sharpe finished played 32 games, 25 starts, but he started 24 of his first 25 appearances after Anthony Simons got hurt. And if you look at his season in kind of two different splits, before he got injured and after, it kind of tells it's not a true tale of two halves, but there was a level of production that he just never got back to. He also just didn't play that many games when he came back from injury. So prior to getting injured, he showed up on the injury report on December 19th, plays 8 minutes against the Suns the next day, and then his season kind of just... He would play 6 more the rest of the year. His season kind of just erupted from there. But in those first 25 games, 24 starts, he averaged 17.4, 5.5, and 3.4 assists. 17, 5.5, and 3.5? You mean 17.5, 5.5, and 3.5? That's like and he shot 41% from the floor and 36% from three. 36% from three is like right under league average. The league average is like 36 and some change. So it's like he's a league average shooter, averaging 17.5, 5.5, and 3.5. If you just look at those counting numbers of those first 25 games, you're like, yeah, he was doing it. And he was. It's propped up by a monster stretch. From November 30th to December 11th, he had 5 games where he scored at least 25 points in 5 consecutive games. And over that 5-game stretch, he averaged 26.2 points, 6.6 boards, and 5 assists. That's 26, 6.5, and 5. He was playing 40 minutes a night, 39.4 minutes a night in those games. Like, the Blazers were beat up, and they were just leaning on him, and they were like, Jabari Booyah, you can't cut it. It has to be Shaedon Sharpe. And playing 40 minutes a night is too many, obviously, and he got hurt shortly thereafter. That's like December 11th. Within a week, he shows up on the injury report with a soft tissue injury, a groin strain that would end up ending his season. But during that stretch, you scored 25 in back-to-back games. You're on the scouting report. You scored 25 points in 3 straight games. You're really on the scouting report. You do it 4 straight times, and they know you're going to get the ball. They're like, you're circled, right? Like, they say, okay, stop Sharpe and then, right? Like, you're at the top of the scouting report. We got it. It can't be him, and then we'll figure out. We'll make it be anyone else. And he scores 25 in 5 straight games. That's a really good stretch, and the efficiency during that stretch is what makes you feel really good about what he can be. 53% shooting from the field, 46.5% shooting from 3 on 8.6 attempts per game, and 81% from the free throw line. But obviously that's just a heater, right? Shooting 47% from 3 on 8.5 attempts per game. But it shows you, like, any 5-game stretch, I say this all the time, like any 5-game stretch during the regular season suggests that there are 77 other games. But that 5-game stretch was like, you saw the proof of concept with Shaedon Sharpe. Prior to that, he really did not shoot well from 3 to begin the season. He was really struggling with his jump shot to begin the season. I think some of it was adjusting to role and new parts and all of those things, and some of it is just like he didn't shoot as well. So he has that stretch. About a week later, he shows up on the injury report. He misses a little bit of time, and then he comes back early January. So shows up on the injury report December 19th. Misses sort of the end of the last couple weeks of December. Comes back early January in that road trip from hell, and he plays in 6 of the first 7 games on this like the Blazers just like nightmare road trip. And part of the nightmare is because Shaedon Sharpe's season ended. And during that stretch, he struggled. He just didn't look like himself. He had one good game. He played really well in a game that went to overtime against the Brooklyn Nets. He was on a minutes restriction when he came back, and he looked a little rusty. And then against the Nets, clearly the minutes restriction was lifted because he played 35 minutes in regulation, and then he played into overtime. He had 21 in a game the only game they won on that trip, and he was good. Like he played over scoot down the stretch and deserved to play. But during those 6-game stretch, 12 points, 3.5 boards, an assist and a half, 38% from the floor, just 20% from 3. Like that dragged down a lot of his season. Like that offset the monster 5-game stretch he had at the beginning of January or at the beginning of December. The one that he had at the beginning of January, he came back from injury. Just like, okay, yeah, that's why he struggled. That's kind of those 2 stretches offset for him, and he ends up shooting 33% from 3, down from a season ago. The final, his last game of the season is the 62-point loss, historic beatdown against Oklahoma City, the first of 2 60-point losses. It's not the 60-point loss, it's the first of 2. That's January 11th. About a month later, February 9th, he has surgery and his season ends. They kind of toyed with him not having surgery. Maybe he'll come back, and then it's like he's going to have surgery. And then it was they kind of flirted with him maybe playing at the end of the season. It never made sense based on the timeline. It was going to be like 6 to 8 weeks, and he was only going to be available for the last 10 games if he like really played in all of the, like if they kind of said, okay, you're cleared to go back on the court, go do stuff. He said in his exit interviews he hadn't been cleared for 5-on-5. Like he'd been playing 3-on-3, 2-on-2 and 3-on-3, and the kind of he hadn't been cleared for like fully to be able to play. I assume that was the final step. You assume he'll be ready to go and well beyond his, back on the court a whole bunch in the summertime. And so like it's no concern for the next season, but not seeing Sharpe and having his season end the way it did, just frustrating. Let's talk a little bit more. Let's talk a lot more about Sharpe, and also revisit Michael from the past, my best and worst case scenarios from the preseason, from way back in October when I recorded these. That's what we'll do in the second segment. First, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's daily fantasy made easy, and now that we're into the postseason for the NBA and the NHL, you got a whole bunch of fun stuff to get in on the action. PrizePicks is the number one fantasy sports app, over 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on that action when you're watching your favorite sports or your favorite players. You just pick more or less on a 2 or more player stat entry, and then you can win some money if you get it right. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn your $10 into $1,000 while you're watching some playoff action with America's number one fantasy sports app. So download the app today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's $100, up to $100 match dollar for dollar on your first deposit. You put in $20, give you $20. Put in $50, give you $50. You go all the way to $100, they'll match you to $100 when you use that promo code LOCKEDONNBA once you download the app. It's PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right. Shaedon Sharpe's season is, it's like an incomplete grade, and I'll talk more about it in a moment here when we revisit Michael from the past. But like I mentioned, his counting stats, like the points, rebounds, assists, they're all career highs, right? Like he played more and his numbers went up, but the efficiency was down. He was more efficient in year one as a very green rookie in terms of shooting and in terms of, he didn't shoot as well from the free throw line, but in terms of making 2-pointers and 3-pointers, he was better he was more efficient as a sort of lower usage, lower ask rookie in his first year than he was in year two. Obviously, like there's going to be some natural efficiency drop just as like they ask you to do more, you get the ball in your hands more and more, all those things. But like at the end of his rookie season, he had a stretch of 10 games where it's like, oh, this dude is ready, like not to maybe like be this like high level star in the league, but like he's ready to take on a pretty serious role on a team. And even if he's like gonna have some bumps and bruises because he's 20 years old, like he looked like he was ready to make at least a mini leap. He didn't start with that mini leap, and then he had a stretch where it was really good, and then it just never came back, and he never got back to that level. The big difference for Sharpe is that as a rookie, he finished at the rim at an absurdly high level, 77% at the rim as a rookie, according to Basketball Reference, and in year 2, he shot 57% of the rim. That's the difference in who he was. There's a little bit of variance in he shot better from long twos as a rookie than he did. He shot better from 3, but like really the difference in his efficiency. If you just assume like a little more volume, you're gonna probably shoot worse on 3-pointers, and a little more different offensive role, you might shoot worse on jumpers. But the finishing is going to be about the same. That's mostly self-created stuff. You're going to get some lobs here and there, and he certainly had more lobs as a rookie than he did as a sophomore. But it's a lot of like attacking the rim off the bounce, attacking the rim off cuts and things like that, and finishing through contact and around people and in a crowd. And he was exceptional at it as a rookie. Exceptional. 77% of at the rim compared to just 56.9% according to Basketball Reference of the rim. Like he just dropped off there. That's the difference in his game. That's the difference in efficiency. But he had moments where you could see it. You could see it. So before I talk about kind of what we saw and what's next for Shaedon Sharpe, I want to revisit Michael from the past. In these season previews that I do every year, I talk best and worst case scenarios within reason and without injury. Obviously, Sharpe's had injury, but let's cue Michael from the past and see what I had to say way back in October of 2023 about what Sharpe could potentially look like in year 2, and then we'll talk about where he landed. Michael from the past, take it away. What's the best case scenario for Shaedon Sharpe? It's that he's a no doubt about it legitimate NBA wing at 20 years old. The best case scenario probably isn't that he averages 27, 6, and 4 like he did at the end of the season, but something in the range of 18 and 5 on above average shooting, and that he continues to show the progress that he made as a defender from being a truly terrible one early in his career in a very believable way that a 19-year-old would, to showing that he has at least the tools to be a pretty good defensive player if he can figure out kind of just the patterns of NBA offenses. The best case scenario is that before his 21st birthday, he's a legitimate NBA wing. That he's just like, this dude can play at the hardest position to find good players. He's 6'6" with great athleticism. He can shoot. He can defend a little bit. He showed an improvement as a playmaker, and he continues on that path. The best case scenario is that Shaedon Sharpe is just legit. You don't have to worry about him. You get to fantasize about him taking the next big leap from legitimate NBA starter rotation player to just like a really good starting 2-guard in the league. That's what we'll do next year if he hits his best case scenario. So what's the worst case scenario? It's that progress and development is neither guaranteed nor linear. And so while Sharpe has flashes of being that legitimate NBA wing, those are the peaks, and the valleys are a guy who's still kind of figuring it out, because as NBA teams get more comfortable with him, the scouting report might catch up to his skill set. The worst case scenario is that a guy who doesn't have as explosive a first step as I would have personally guessed when he was first coming into the league, and a guy who doesn't have a very strong handle, that his athleticism is best served as an off-ball piece and not a true slasher to the rim. The worst case scenario is that he is still a developmental part, and that he is a net negative, because in a way that so many young players his age are not ready to be positive high-level contributors in the league, he is not ready to be a positive high-level contributor in the league. The worst case scenario is that Shaedon Sharpe looks like a 20-year-old playing in the NBA. Thank you, Michael from the past. So I don't think Shaedon Sharpe hit his best case scenario, 18-5 on plus efficiency. The pendulum definitely swings to the worst case scenario. On the whole, he didn't look like, oh, you're a 20-year-old in the league and it's just like you're going to be limping through it. But I think the frustrating part, and with a lot of young guys, is just consistency. While he had that stretch in early December where it's like, yeah, maybe he's the one. I think part of the some of the things that I didn't love about Shaedon Sharpe's season, or the number one thing I probably didn't love about Shaedon Sharpe's season, is there was times before his season ended, before the injury, before he returned from injury stuff, but even in that sort of before the calendar flipped, they were kind of having to find out ways to get him to be more aggressive, particularly in the week after when kind of guys got healthy again, and it was like his role was changing, and it was right around that final couple weeks of December, final 10 days of December. It was like in those stretch of games when the team was more healthy, he was having trouble figuring out when to be aggressive, when to pick his spots. Even when they have plays for him on the wing to attack, he wouldn't always be aggressive. And it was like when it wasn't ball in your hands, go get it, they were having trouble just getting his dial turned up all the way. And I think that is kind of something he's going to have to learn, is to not feel out the game. But I called it during the year, it's like be a little more selfish. And I think that is a maturation thing, is knowing when to be selfish. And kind of some guys, they have to know when to not be selfish, right? You're begging them to not take crazy shots. And for Sharpe, I think it's actually the other way around. They need him to just his engine to run a little hotter. So he's hunting for, he's a guy who can score at all three levels. He's a good basketball player. You need him to play like it, because when he's quiet on offense, it's just you're not getting the most out of it. When you're like, hey, why you only take 6 shots? What? It's you need more from him. I think in general, in terms of the best case, worst case scenario, and my predictions for preseason is he hits the worst case scenario because he got hurt, but that's not what the best case and worst case scenario is, right? It's not about injuries. It's about production on the court. And I think you saw it. Much like last year, you saw it. But now we're talking a 5-game stretch in year 2, a 10-game stretch in year 1. Not a ton of wins in those games, but the team's not very good, so it's not about I don't think pointing at team victories is the thing. It's but he's had some games and some stretches of games in both seasons where he has been high volume, high efficiency, score in a bunch of different ways, rebound, and have some playmaking skills thrown in there. We've seen it now very briefly twice. The question for Sharpe is, can you stretch it out? Is that something you can do often? And that's what I want to talk about to close the show here is what does year 3 look like for Shaedon Sharpe? Because it's a big one. And how can they coax more of the special moments out of him for a longer stretches of time? We'll do that to close the show. First, I want to tell you that this next segment is brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest, big or small. Certain things can really start to get you, and it's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life, a neutral third party. Therapy can be really helpful if you're going through an acute traumatic event. It can be really helpful if you just need routine maintenance to keep your life moving at least forward or not backward. Therapy helps you develop the tools to become the best version of yourself, or at least it gives you the skills to go develop those tools to become the best version of yourself. Therapy can be really useful, and it's also different for everyone. Most of us got bigger problems than Shaedon Sharpe's lack of consistency, and it's important to get those problems, big or small, off your chest every once in a while. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible, suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. You get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's show is also brought to you by Monopoly Go. It is the mobile game that your friends are probably already playing. If you are a Monopoly fan, a fan of classic Monopoly, you're probably a deeply competitive person. Well, Monopoly Go packs all of that competition you're going to love into a mobile game you can play anywhere. It's been downloaded over 150 times. It's a great twist on Monopoly. You can play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations like the moon or Las Vegas. You can build up amazing cities that bring you big money, and the best part is you can mess with your friends along the way. You can charge them rent for staying on your iconic properties, just like on classic Monopoly, but now you can also heist their vaults, steal their riches, and then check out the leaderboards to see who's the biggest Monopoly tycoon and see where you rank. So if you've got a competitive side, go check it out. But you can also team up with your friends and people around the world in time tournaments, earn huge rewards. So get in on the action whatever way you want to play. Download Monopoly Go now for free on the App Store and Google Play. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. I think the problem or the challenge with Shaedon Sharpe is that you've seen the moments when it all clicks. But every young player, some young players don't show those flashes, right? I think that's the light doesn't shine as bright for everyone. There's been some moments where for Shaedon Sharpe, you can see what he can do. He can score as an off-ball guy, as cutting, curling around screens into the paint. He can fade for jumpers and be a catch-and-shoot guy off the catch. He can operate in the pick and roll. He can be a good cutter when someone drives baseline. He gets those little slot cuts, which is like when you're on the wings, like foul line extended at three-point line, and you just cut right to the rim as someone drives baseline. He is super dangerous on those slot cuts. He's shown ability to work the baseline. His rookie season, that was really, he developed a really good sense of how to work the baseline and use his excellent athleticism to get where he wants to go. He scores off the ball. He can score on the ball. He can shoot pull-up jumpers from mid-range. He can shoot from three off the catch and off the dribble, and he can finish at the rim. He has all of the tools. His light, when it is shining, shines bright. The challenge is that he just doesn't do it that much. And that's often a road that young players have to try to navigate. They just don't do it that much. Consistency, turning stretches of 5 and 10 games into 25, 35, 45, 65, 70 games. Let's say you get the best version of Shaedon Sharpe for 55 games next year. That's an excellent basketball player. Excellent basketball player. If the best version of Sharpe, and I don't want to use the stretch in December where it's like 26, 6, and 5 on 53, 47, 81 splits. That's too much. But if the best version of Sharpe is something like 5%, 10% less than that, right? Like if you're talking someone who averages like around 20 and around 4 and 4 on above average shooting, that's a very good basketball player. Year 3 is his big chance to put it together, right? If he's a 24 and 4 guy on above average efficiency, he's going to be excellent. He is not a very good defender right now. He's not a very good defensive player at all, but he has the tools to be good on that end too, right? Like he's strong and he's quick laterally. He could be a two-way force and a guy who can rebound and pass a little bit and score at all 3 levels. And that's the challenge, if he can put it together. And I think that some of, like, the majority of the if, I put at Shaedon's feet, right? Like, he's got to figure out how to turn his dial up. So he's always hyper-aggressive, and the coaching staff, like, isn't, Chauncey Billups talked all the time. It's like, I'm going to have to talk to him about shooting. I'm going to have to get on him about shooting. That can't be the case. It cannot be asking a coach like, imploring you to do more. I put that at Shaedon Sharpe. Consistency, that's a hard thing to track. Like, why are some guys, stars are consistent, role players are not consistent, starters are consistent, bench players not. Like, that's the difference in good and bad players in the league. But the level at which, like, the level that the number of RPMs your engine runs at, like, you can control that. And I put that at Shaedon's feet. And also just like continuing to develop some of his weaknesses. His ball handling is still not where it needs to be. If he develops a tighter handle, all of his physical tools immediately level up because he can use them off the bounce more. He plays with good pace when he has a rhythm, and sometimes his feet get a little messed up because he doesn't play with good pace. But when he plays at his speed and he can go slow, fast, or he can just immediately use that burst, he's better with the burst off the ball as a cutter. Like, he's got the tools. I think Sharpe has a chance to be a very good player in the league. The question is, year 3, how big is the jump? A lot of folks, I've heard mention that like year 3 is a huge year for guys because it's the extension year. Shaedon Sharpe would have to have a monster summer. If you're coming off your rookie scale contract, if you're a rookie, not coming off of it, but if you're on your rookie contract, if you're 3rd year in the league, you are eligible to sign an extension in the summer after your 3rd season. That would kick in after your contract expires after year 4. Rookie contracts are 4 years. First round pick contracts are 4 years. So like, if you're really good, like Desmond Bain style, you get to sign a max contract after year 3 and like play into it, play into year 4, knowing that that you're already getting super paid in the summer, right? LaMelo Ball type of thing. I don't think there's a world, I would be hard pressed to see a world in which Shaedon Sharpe has a breakout where he gets a true max in year 3. Like, certainly there's that. That's out there, right? There's a possibility of it. But he would have to have such a monster year. I think he's going to have a big role, and they're going to carve out minutes for him. He's going to play a ton and all that, right? Like, they're committed to him and committed to his development. But, I don't think that there's this pressure for him to perform for a contract, because he can just play into year 4. He'll be a restricted free agent. He can sign a big money contract as a restricted free agent. It's not that big of a deal. But for the Blazers organizationally, Shaedon Sharpe Shaedon Sharpe putting himself in that, okay, how much are we going to have to give this dude type of conversation, even if a contract extension never comes up next summer. But how much do we have to pay this dude conversation? They need that, right? The Blazers need that. They need to be able, like, for the direction of the franchise, they need Sharpe to show that he is like a foundational core piece. Whether he is like a star, multi-time all-star, or more than that, that's like, he has the potential to be that, right? Like, I do believe he has the skills. It's putting it together for a long stretch. But what the Blazers need organizationally is clarity about what level he can play at, or at least comfort with about what level he can play at. Because that's a lot of their decisions going forward, is how good can Shaedon Sharpe be. Certainly they think he can be very good, but year 3 is not about earning money for Shaedon Sharpe. Year 3 is about earning trust and confidence of the organization, because you're going to get that money. That money's going to be waiting for you in year 4. If you ball, that money's going to be waiting for you. He's not going to cost himself $1. He could still sign a max contract the following summer if he balls out, or just a big old contract the next summer if he balls out. This year is about proving you can play at your highest level for longer stretches, and you can play at your highest level sort of regardless of who's on the court with you, because you can take over games selfishly because you know you're capable of it, and play, not 10 games of really good basketball, but a month of really good basketball, 2 months of really good basketball, 40 games of excellent basketball. Like pushing the limit on how long can you play at how long can you take a leap and then have that leap be a consistent level of production that you kind of plateau at for a second until you take that next leap. He showed that he's capable of it, but he didn't make a leap in year 2. He was worse from an efficiency standpoint. Year 3 is a chance to take that leap and then build on it in year 4. It's a huge one for Shaedon Sharpe, who in some ways might be the most, the biggest part of the franchise in terms of probably the player on the roster right now with the highest ceiling in terms of overall chance to be the highest level player of anyone on the team. I think he has more tools just from what we've seen to be a high level player than Scoot. Whether he can reach that level is probably a lot on Shaedon Sharpe, his work ethic, his determination, and his mindset when he gets there, and also his skill level. Can he continue to improve his handle? Can he continue to improve, get back to his level of finishing he showed in his rookie season? And if he can do all of those things, and he can do all of those things for 50 games, you've got a star. The tools are there. The ability is there to unlock. And if you can unlock it with consistency, you've got a star in the making. That is going to do it for today's show. Tomorrow's show, come back. We got fun ones. If you're an everydayer in April, bless you and the people you hold dear in your life and your commute to work, however, or maybe your early dog walks, however you consume the program. Bless you if you're listening every day in April. But you know that I tease that I have 2 interviews coming up. And I do later this week. Mark from Locked On UConn is going to join the program on Thursday's show. We're going to talk about all the UConn draftees, potential draftees, Stephon Castle and Donovan Clingan, and then Alex Caravan, who I really like as a second round prospect. And then Keandre from Hoop Intellect is going to be on Friday's show. 2 really fun interviews to close the week. That's what we do. 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, even in freaking April. You're not getting this anywhere else. So if you enjoy the program, tell your friends about it. Come back for tomorrow's show. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.